Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we got a fun little trip around the state of Florida planned for you tonight. We're going to check in and see what all this cold weather has meant to our fishing. And I've also got a question for the boys tonight. God, I just got done cleaning a load of triggerfish, and boy, nothing eats up a blade like triggerfish. Fishermen are about as picky about their knives as women are about their shoes. So I want to find out what kind of knives the pros recommend, and I want to find out what kind of pliers they wear. I'm telling you what, I am tired of going through cheap pliers that won't cut, and I'm tired of knives that wear out quick. So let's learn a little something tonight on a week where the fishing may not have been quite as good. The Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here by Shimano, bringing people and nature together by Tournament Master Chum. It's the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat span offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. All right, we're going to talk to action spotters all around the state of Florida and find out what this weather has meant to our fishing. Let's get our little trip around the state started with a trip up to Northeast Florida to a chilly Jacksonville. That's where we'll find Captain David Voorhees. Dave, how are you?
Hey, Ricky, I'm trying to stay warm, buddy, trying to stay warm.
You know, I look at the wintertime up here, and what are we talking about, a bad 6-8 weeks?
Yeah.
But boy,
probably on average.
When it's going on, it feels like forever, doesn't it?
It does. And I've been talking to a lot of the captains, and everybody's, we're losing charters, and it's like, you know what, guys, this is typical January, February. This is Northeast Florida. We don't live down in the Keys, guys. So this is part of it. These are the 2 months where we really struggle. And, we've been getting a lot of fronts coming through. So we've had a lot of wet weather as well as cold weather. Today, if you got up here in Northeast Florida, you woke up and, it was a brisk 50-something degrees, but the humidity was 90-something%. So you add 50 degrees to a 90% humidity. It's raw. It's just chilly, a raw, cold day. And nobody wants to be on the water during those days. I mean, this weekend, my God, I've never seen the boat ramps up here so empty. But with that being said, we still managed to get out a couple of days this past week. And, it was a tough struggle. It was hard. It was not easy. And I stuck with my game plan of running and gunning and just keep going. But I find that, I'm pushing back in the creeks. I feel like these fish, there's not a lot of food for these fish. I mean, right now, these fish, they don't have a lot of options of stuff to eat. And I feel like they have a tendency, they're going to go deep, and they're going to push way back in the creeks and hang around these oysters where they probably find one of their few wintertime foods, and that's the mud minnow.
Right.
And if you're out and about and you're looking around, and I've always preached this to young fishermen, don't go out looking for fish. You go out looking for bait. Understand the bait first. The cycle of the bait, how it comes through Jackson, this area. Learn what's in the area, what's passing through, when the shrimp are hatching, and you're going to learn more by studying the bait than studying the prey you're after. And if you look now, you'll find, you go to these oyster reefs, the water's gin clear, and you're going to find lots of mud minnows sort of scurrying around those oysters. And that's where you're going to find your reds. And if you can find a nice, good oyster reef that's got a deep hole nearby, and what I mean by deep is, 5, 6, maybe even 10 feet deep if you're lucky, and you're probably going to find some fish. But you're not going to you're not going to get the fish. You're not going to, like in the summer times when we have shrimp, we're able to sometimes pick shrimp out and attract the fish to the scent of the shrimp. You're not going to have that luxury this time of year. You sort of have to move around and you have to methodically work an area. And I tell my people, we're going to cover every square inch of this hole until we get a thump, till we get a bite. And when we get that bite, we're going to start concentrating in that area and try to pinpoint these fish. And that's what you have to do. You have to sort of pinpoint them. But once you find them, you're going to do okay. You're going to do pretty good. You're not going to do great, but you're going to do okay.
But it's all in a matter of finding tightly congregated fish. I got that.
It is. And that, you hit the nail on the head, Rick. They are concentrated now. These fish are schooled up tight and they're close together. So, a lot of times when they're scattered out, almost every hole you hit, you're going to find some fish on it. That's not the case now. You might hit 2 or 3 holes before you find the eureka hole. But just, you got to keep at it. You got to keep going. You got to change it up, mix things up. Go with what's going to give your minnow the most action, whether if you put it on a smaller jig or go to just a free line in it. And it's a good time to go out there and actually scout and look for fish. You can find them. This water is really clear right now. So it's a good time to try to locate your fish. And I have found that there's times where I'll go to a spot and I might spook them out. And I get aggravated at the moment, because so I back off of the spot. And a lot of times I will leave it and come back in another hour and try to locate those fish again. And a lot of times that's paid off for me, Rick.
Good advice, David. Hey, let me ask you a question. I just got done.
Yep.
I just got done cleaning a load of triggerfish, which is about the hardest thing you can do with a blade. What knife do you carry?
Well, I have Dexter, right, but I don't just have any other Dexter. My Dexter's the American-made Dexter, and there's a big difference. When you go to buy knives now, you're talking to an ex-chef, and you're also talking to the son of a butcher. And I was lucky enough to have my dad to teach me knife skills at a young age. Anything we brought home, whether it be game or fish and stuff, we cleaned it. He taught us how to clean fish and clean game and stuff like that, which was really a good lesson. And every time I have a knife in my hand and I'm doing something, I hear my late dad in the behind me telling me, "All right, son, let the knife do the work. And a dull knife will cut you quicker than a sharp
yes,
knife."
It will.
And a lot of people, when they come to the cleaning station with me, I don't just bring my knife to the cleaning station. I've got my dad's old butcher stone, which it could be 100 years old. I don't know, but it is so worn down. And I love that stone. And I like to keep my cleaning knives razor sharp. And it makes for, I go through fish and people will sit there and watch me and they go, "Now that's a sharp knife." And I said, that's the only way I would have it. So David, you've got to keep your knives sharp.
You are dead on with me with the Dexter Russell domestic made. And I believe, I've talked this over with Larry Finch, who owns a fish market. I believe the domestic ones are called Santa Safe, aren't they?
You know what? You got me on that one.
I think so, but what size do you use?
You know what? I don't like a long blade. Right. I like the short. To me, for the redfish, I like a shorter, stiffer blade. Right. I want a good stiff blade. And the other thing, when I'm doing my cleaning, I try to show people, I try to avoid cutting into bone and scales as much as possible. And there's certain ways to do that with fish, and there's you got to try to avoid that. But the knives, I mean, there's some really good knives out there on the market now, but I don't like a real flimsy one, Rick. I don't like the thin, long blades that have a lot of bend to them. And for cleaning redfish, I want a little bit stouter and stiffer blade, more like the 10-inch blades is what I like.
Yeah, I liked a little shorter than that. I'll even go down to the 7s. But I'm with you. I got a case of Dexter Russells. I've got some Cutco, Chicago Cutlery Company, but like most fishermen, I am very, very particular about my knives. Cap, I appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely, Rick, and I'm looking forward to it. I've got some bookings coming up. It looks like the weather's going to give us a little break here towards the end of the week. So I'll be out there hunting for fish again.
Good deal. Thank you, David. Now, time for the Space Coast. Time for one Captain Jim Ross. Jim, how are you?
Doing fantastic, Rick.
Good. You just got off the water, huh?
Just got off the water, scrubbing boats as we speak, and it's good to be back on the water because I was off for a little while with this facial treatment, getting the precancerous stuff off there. I definitely want to tell everybody out there, make sure you use your sunscreen.
Yep.
And that way you won't have to get your face melted off when you get into your mid-50s like I am.
Yep, mid-50s. I remember them fondly. Tell me about your fishing.
It's been a little slow, to be real honest with you. You know, the ups and downs in the temperature has really kind of thrown curveballs at us. Thursday and Friday, it was pretty good. Saturday, the front hit, shut everything back down. Sunday, Monday, it's been kind of the same way. Coming into the week, we've got another front on Tuesday. So I'm expecting it to be, kind of the same, just kind of a roller coaster ride right now.
Yeah.
The only thing that is really consistent is the beach bite for the bluefish. That's about the only thing that I can say that if you really, really, guarantee, it's kind of a guarantee. But most of those fish are small. They're all less than 2 pounds, anyway, that I've talked with or caught here in the last couple of days. But, it is what it is. It's just one of those things where there's a couple of weeks during the year where you don't go out there and catch the big one every time. And this past week has been one of those.
Jim, it's funny. Our winter time lasts, 6 weeks usually? Maybe 8?
Usually, yeah.
All right. And that's a very short period of time. I mean, that means 10 months of the year we've got good. But doesn't it seem like it takes forever once we get into it?
It does.
God, I feel like I've been cold
and
forever.
what's interesting is right in the beginning, the cool fronts were actually really helpful.
Oh, yeah.
They actually increased our bite.
Enough already.
Now the fish are going, okay, we've had enough of it, and we're ready for some warmth. Yeah.
Hey.
And you can see the triple tail as an example when they're sitting around underneath the floating debris, or sometimes we're finding them inside of the Port Canaveral area around the docks. I've watched guys on the South Jetty today. One guy said that he messed with the same fish for an hour, just drifting live shrimp, peeled shrimp, jigs, all kinds of stuff in front of this one fish that was sitting right next to one piling, and couldn't get it to eat anything. He says he hollered out at me, and I was on the end of the jetty, and he says, "What do these things eat?" And I said, "They eat shrimp." And he says, "This one won't." And I said, "Well, what's your water temperature?" I said, "It's because of your water temperature. Your water temperature is 65.8 degrees." I said, "It's going to have to get to 67 before they eat." And so that's kind of the scenario we're in, is we have to get our water temperatures right, or they're going to stay cold enough long enough that the triple tail are going to go, "Oh, the heck with this," and they're going to go ahead and leave and go farther south.
Yep. They get hungry enough, they'll find something to eat, but they might go south to do it. You're exactly right. Hey.
What's interesting, though, is I forgot the name of this plant, but it's a pink plant in my next door neighbor's yard, and it flowers when the cobia show up.
Ooh.
Well, guess what it's doing right now?
Oh, it's flowers blooming?
It's got flowers and blooms on it. So
Okay.
I'm thinking to myself, if we can just get offshore, if we can get that swell knocked down and actually get out there to go do get on some of those wrecks in 100 to 150 feet, or even 70 to 150 feet of water, I'm thinking the cobia are there based on what the plant is telling me. And the plant doesn't lie.
Yeah, plants.
You and I think we know what we're talking about. The plant doesn't lie.
Yeah.
It knows.
People.
I call it the cobia bush.
People don't begin to understand nature, Jim. I learned this in Alaska. It was so fascinating to me. Every year, the salmon return to the same stream. Every year, the bears come to feed on them. Nobody knows when it happens, but they both get there on the same day every year.
Every time.
It's crazy. Yep. It may be, maybe February, maybe June, but if the salmon are there, the bear are there. Not the next day. not the next day, Jim. Right then. I mean, that's
that
just
day.
that's fascinating to me. Hey, let me ask you a quick question. I'm taking a survey here, okay?
Sure thing.
You clean a bunch of fish. I just got done cleaning a load of triggerfish, which is my toughest fish to clean. What knife do you carry?
I actually carry two. I carry a boning knife,
Right.
and then I carry a fillet knife. And I carry 5 or 6, like we all do. But I carry about a 6.5 inch boning knife, and I carry a 6 and an 8 inch fillet knife. And those do the heavy lifting in my world of cleaning fish. Now, I also have a serrated blade knife when I get into triggerfish, black drum, things like that are a little tougher, sheephead that are a little tougher. I do carry a serrated blade boning style knife as well. But I would say the majority of the time, about a 6.5 inch boning knife with a 6 and an 8 inch fillet knife to go along with it, depending on the width of the fillet that I'm trying to clean.
Manufacturer, please.
Yeah. I use the Williamson brand,
okay.
But you can also buy them in the Rapala brand.
Right.
And they have a martini blade in them.
Right.
And that martini, and they specifically say martini on the blade.
Right.
And so when you look for them, you'll see them. They're exact same knives. The Williamsons are blue and white handles. The Rapalas are gray and white handles. But that blade has been a phenomenal blade for me. And I've used Dexters for years. I found these, and I have my Dexters they're sitting in my truck in my toolbox, right there where the rest of them are, but they don't ever get picked up. The Williamsons always do.
How about that? That's fascinating. I'll be darned. I actually use a mix of both. I have a serrated Dexter, and I've got some Williamson fillets. You're exactly right. Thanks, buddy. As always, we appreciate it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I look forward to it, Rick.
Thank you, Captain Jim Ross. Now, we're going to my favorite little fishing village, Stuart, Florida, sailfish capital of the United States, anyway. I think maybe sailfish capital of everywhere. But we'll check in with one John Earhart. John, how are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here, Rick.
Good. Glad to hear from you, my boy. How's your fishing? I know it's good.
Yeah, we have had some phenomenal sail fishing. You know, I've seen guys catching as many as 22 sailfish in a day and having as many as 35 bites. It seems like it's slowed down a little bit. You know, like today, I was seeing 3 to 5 sailfish being caught. You know, guys are having 6 or 8 bites. In between sailfish bites, we are catching a lot of big blackfin tuna right now. I just can't believe the amount of big blackfin tuna that are being caught trolling and kite fishing right now.
Good.
There's a few mahis mixed in, some kingfish, and occasional cobia, but right now offshore fishing is pretty darn good for sailfish and big blackfin tuna. So, I mean, if you can get out there and the weather conditions allow and there's a light north wind, you better believe you're going to catch some sailfish right now.
Gotcha. Any inshore fish at all?
The inshore fishing's been pretty slow. A lot of guys are trying for pompano right now. We're catching a few, but this cold water's kind of got the inshore fishery shut down. So, I mean, it's been tough fishing. Few keeper snooks, few pompano, a lot of bluefish, and a lot of Spanish mackerel. You know, definitely need to slow down your presentation and you will get the bites, but, you know, definitely going to need to be patient and be willing to wait because it's been a little bit difficult this week for inshore.
Understand. Hey, John, I'm taking a survey. You clean a lot of fish, and I just got done, what brought it up, I just got done butchering my knives on a nice catch of triggerfish, but what knives do you use?
I like the Forstners. You know, those are my favorites. And I always have like a 7, a 9-inch blade, and then I always have a serrated blade. Typically, my serrated blades are going to be Dexters, but I mean, always want to have a serrated blade for those tougher skin fish, and then you want to have a 7 to a 9-inch blade, you know, for different size fish that you're cleaning, whether it's a mahi or a snook. You know, I typically like to have 3 to 5 knives in my arsenal so that, you know, at least one of them's going to be sharp to get the job done for the day.
I'm with you. Stiff blade or flexible blade?
For my smaller fish, I like a flexible blade. For my larger fish, I like a stiff blade.
I agree 100%. If you ever get a chance, I'm big on both those knives, by the way, and I own some of both of them. If you ever get a chance, add a Cutco to your arsenal. Chicago Cutlery Corporation. They make an outstanding knife.
It's a serrated or using a flexible?
No, it's a fillet knife. It's pretty stiff, but it actually has what sounds hokey, but really works out well for me. It actually has an adjustable blade. It slides into the handle, take it out of the knife, slide it out, and make it longer if you have to. I like it around 9 inches, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'll have to give that a try. That don't sound too bad.
Great knife, great knife. Thank you, John. We appreciate it.
Yep, I'll talk to you next week.
Take care, buddy. I look forward to it. All right, let's pull down to the mayor of South Beach and check in with one Alan Sherman. Alan, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Rick. How are you?
Good, good. I bet I'm colder than you are.
I know you are, because we have some of the best weather you could ask for. 80s, low 80s, 70s in the evening. It's beautiful.
Shut up. I'm sitting in my little office with a heater blowing on my feet.
Well, things are going to change tomorrow, though. We're going to get some weather from the front that's stalling here. So the winds are supposed to go north-northwest and blow a little bit, and then we're also supposed to get some rain. But we've had some good fishing this week. It hasn't been great, but it's been good enough. There's a little bit of everything around offshore. There's some kingfish in the 5 to 10 pound range, small blackfin tunas, a few big ones, some sailfish, no big numbers this week, but they're out there to be caught. There's big barracudas, lots and lots of sharks, way too many sharks. The guys are complaining about their fish getting eaten on the way up, especially the bottom fish. So that's been a problem all week for the guys. But then there's been some dolphin as well. Not lots of them, but every now and then they come in on a spread. Guys with the kites up, with live baits underneath them, fishing for sailfish or whatever, and a few nice dolphins, 10 to 15 pounders, a few 20 pounders have taken those baits. On the bottom over the wrecks, the guys are catching some nice vermilions and yellow eyes. Yellow eye snappers. There was a nice Cubera snapper caught the other day on the reward party boat, about 20 pounds, and a few big muttons as well. So it's always good to see. And then the sword fishing, we've had calm weather per se, and the sword fishing offshore has been pretty good during the daytime. They're getting a few of those big pomfrets as well.
Yep.
So, you put all that together, and it's not a bad fishing report, something to look forward to.
Alan, have you ever eaten a pomfret?
No, I've never. Maybe I've seen a couple of them years ago on the charter boat docks, but I've never seen one up close. No, not to a fresh one.
I'd like every deep water fish that I've ever tasted was delicious, but I've never eaten barrel fish, and I've never eaten pomfret. Hey, I've got a question for you. I got a question for you. You make your living cleaning fish like a lot of us do. What knives do you carry?
So I only have one knife on board. I have two knives on board.
Really?
They're the same knife. Yeah, so the same knife. I use a 6-inch Horschner boning knife.
How about that? I'll be darned.
It's a stiff knife. It's great for bottom fish cleaning, for filleting. It's really good for a kingfish or a mackerel. It'll do a job on a cobia or a dolphin. And it's the perfect knife. If I have to stake a fish, I may struggle a little bit. But being an inshore guide, we don't get that many fish that need to be staked.
Yep. The only thing I might add to that, and I agree with you, I use a Forstner. I also use a Dexter Russell, but for triggerfish and sheep's head, I've got to have my serrated blade, man.
Yeah, I don't really have that problem with triggerfish because I always let them go.
Oh, let them go!
But, triple tail, that's a tough fish to clean, but, a boning knife is really good one, a triple tail.
I'll let them go. Let them go in my belly. Thank you, Alan.
I know it.
We appreciate it as always, buddy.
Hey, catch them up.
Talk to you next week. Captain Alan Sherman. Let's get a word from D.O.A. Lures. Yes, it is really getting cold. And, of course, that means the water is cooling down. And just like the great fish always do, the biggest and the baddest of so many species we fish for will soon be holding in deeper water in an attempt to warm up. You name it, it feeds deeper in the water column. It can't refuse the D.O.A. terrorize. It dives straight down and it crawls across the bottom with an action that no deep feeder can resist. Whether it's a crappie deep under some lily pads or a tarpon rooting around the bridge piling, D.O.A. makes a size and color terrorize that they just can't say no to. Flashing that big bright eye in front of any bottom-feeding game fish is just unfair. Maybe that's why they call D.O.A. lures the unfair advantage. That means it's time to go to the place that's never cold, Alamorada, Florida, and check in with one Brandon Storin. I'll bet you Captain Brandon Storin, if he's sitting at his desk right now, he is not running the heater like I am. Am I right, Brandon?
No heaters here.
Woo, got my heater blowing on my feet. It feels so good. Tell me about fishing in Alamorada.
Well, we're kind of just getting over that cold front we had down here. Water temperature is almost perfect right now. And fish are warming up and waking up. It's been great on both sides of the fence. This week I got to go do some backcountry trips, and I've also gone out to the reef and done some offshore trips as well. And it was great on both sides of the fence.
Good deal. What's happening offshore?
Offshore, today we caught a couple of nice big keeper mutton snappers. We caught 12 hogfish that we had to release.
Oh, you had to let them all go. Okay.
Yeah. We also caught a big fire truck red grouper while we're mutton fishing.
Good deal.
Some nice big flag yellowtails. We chased down a couple sours where sailfish were pushing up ballyhoo, but we couldn't connect. And then we finished the day off going to the shallow reef where we caught some porgies, some lane snappers, some other odds and ends, random things like porkfish, schoolmaster snapper, God knows what, and little juvenile groupers on the path reefs too. Just rod bending action. As soon as you put a shrimp in a jig head down, you hook something.
You know, all of us up here in Northeast Florida hate your guts. You know that, right? I mean,
well, come on down. Come on down. What's stopping y'all from coming on down?
That is some fine fishing. There ain't no doubt about that. Hey, I got a question for you. Okay, you had to clean a whole lot of fish today, just like you do most days. What knives do you use?
So I use those Victorinox that are made by Swiss, the Swiss Army knives. Those are my favorite knives. I just got a set for Christmas, and it was one of the things that I wanted Santa to bring me. And they are my favorite knives. They really hold an edge. If you get the set, it comes with a sharpener with them. You fillet a few fish, run into that sharpener 2 or 3 times, and you're back in the game. And they're definitely, to me, the best knives on the market.
I understand now. What size blade are you using?
So I got a set. So I got a variety of 4 different knives that it came with. So to be honest, the size I'm using depends on the kind of fish I'm filleting.
Sure. I got you.
We caught a really big mutton today. Probably close to around like a 14, 15 pounder.
Woo! It's a beauty.
And so I brought the big blade out for that one to get to those scales. But for like the porgies, they have like a 7-inch blade that I was using for that. It's really nice and easy to get through. So, like I said, and then I have one knife that's like a really skinny and flexible knife that they make where it's a dream for just skinning fish after you're done filleting them.
You like flexible blades better or stiff blades for filleting the fish?
Flexible blades, because
okay.
I always go, and you know what? That depends if you're the type of person who fillets fish and goes through the rib cage, or if you're the type of person like me who cuts around the rib cage.
I always cut around the rib cage. Yeah.
I never cut it through the rib cage. I always cut around it, so I like the flexible blade.
Yeah, and unlike most people, it's not because I don't like to eat that meat that's on the outside of it, but I don't want that stomach ruptured and all of that acid getting on my fish.
That's another great point. While we're on the subject, I will give everyone a little tip that's helped me out tremendously with flame fish, and it works for almost every fish. If you start from right at the back of their head and you cut a line down to the beginning of their anal fin and then go angle out, you pretty much skip the rib cage on every single fish in the water. So you start from the right on the back of their head and you make an angle down to the beginning of their anal fin.
Yep,
you can
keep you right outside the rib cage, won't it?
And then if you have a flexible knife, this curved boom, and it's one clean motion. You never cut through a rib cage in your life. And if you're, flaying a box full of fish, it will save you a ton of time and headache and sharpening.
Brandon, thank you so much. Great report. Congratulations on your fishing, and please tell me we can talk with you next week.
Every time.
Thanks, Bean.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils.
What?
Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to use second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Our thanks to Captain Bean Storn from down in Alamorada, where he is not sitting next to the heater with a dog sleeping on his feet to keep him warm. Let's swing over to the 10,000 Islands, and on one of these islands, we will find Captain Steve Dahl. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Rick. How are you?
I'm cold. I'm miserable, but other than that, I'm fine. Don't like wintertime. We get about 6 weeks of it, and I think it lasts for about 9 months.
Yeah, right. I'm with you. This is front after front after front here for us. It's just been a weird last couple of weeks, that's for sure. But there's still fish to be caught, right?
Yep. Tell me about your week. How was your fishing?
Yeah, it was good, honestly. Despite we do a lot of nearshore fishing in the winter months. We got the sheepshead have finally arrived. Everybody's been kind of clamoring, figuring out when these big female sheepshead are going to show up on the wrecks and reefs, and they showed up. It seemed like this past Saturday. So anybody's going out this weekend, you're probably going to do really well. Lots of fish in that 4-pound class.
Good fish. That's good fish.
Yeah, really, really good fish. So keep that in mind. I mean, that's and it's obviously classic. Even a big 4-pound sheepshead is going to take a small bait. So a lot of people always have the big bait, big fish, philosophy with sheepshead. You just can't do that. So they're all over the place. Lots of good mangrove snappers all over the nearshore wrecks and reefs as well. We're starting to see a lot more lane snappers. We're actually finding smaller yellowtail snappers within 5 miles of land. And they're not keepers, but really cool progress, probably the last several years, I've really tried to dial in the near shore fishery just to kind of get away from crowds and, break up the monotony a little bit. And boy, it's amazing what you can find out there if you really put in some time. And as a captain, I don't fish private numbers exclusively. I fish a lot of public numbers. So this isn't stuff that, all this is published, GPS numbers. You can research that stuff, but I'll be honest with you, a lot of it's in your GPSs that come stock, with mapping. So keep that in mind.
Good deal.
Yeah, so that's kind of the nearshore side. We're doing pretty good on that stuff. You got to be a little cautious. We're getting don't have a ton of wave action per se, but we have some tremendous swells right now out in the Gulf of Mexico.
Really?
And and it's I don't know if it's residual waves from a couple of weeks ago or some weather, up in and we're getting some northwests right now, and I don't know if it's some stuff coming down from all the way from Louisiana. I heard they had some really rough water out that way, but it's not bad. It's just brace yourself that if you're at anchor and know how to and properly anchor and understand how that can move your boat around and off your spot. So lots of tutorial stuff on the
Steve,
Florida Sportsman stuff.
In my experience up here in Northeast Florida, when we get a big swell, it quite often screws up our bottom fishing for a few days because we actually get a surge on the bottom, and I think the water's more stirred up, and I know the fish tend to quite often gravitate toward your bigger profile to get out of that surge. Do you ever experience that?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, Rick. Like as I, to that point, I, trying to dial this in further and further, and I'm noticing that when we do we don't get them a lot, but when we do get swells, I think there is a more defined current, to your point, if that's what you're referring to. And it's hard. We just don't. We'll still catch them, but nowhere near what we do. So it's really, funny that you have the same experiences, all the way up north, and as do we. So it definitely hinders the bite. And I don't know if it's you can see your lines aren't vertical. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
And, so I don't know if that means anything, and but I'm warning that.
Yep. So, Cap, we appreciate it as always. That's an outstanding report, and please tell me we can check with you next week.
Oh, always. Can't wait.
All right, thanks, buddy. Captain Steve Dahl. Now let's head west, hit the southwest corner of the state, and talk with one Greg Stamper. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Rick. Things are starting to warm up a little bit here.
Well, I've got a hoodie on, and my heater is running hard at my desk, trying to keep my feet warm. It's not so good here, Greg.
Well, just so you know, yesterday, because I've been freezing my butt off for so long, I started at 69 degrees, and I made the executive decision to wear flip-flops.
Felt good, didn't it?
It did, but I was a little bit cool in the beginning.
I'll bet. Tell me how your fishing's been.
So, all week long, we're still dealing with some of that water that's a little bit dirty. Although, as of today, it's starting to clean up a bit. Hopefully, we're going to get back to that clean water that we normally have during the wintertime. We've just had such low tides and so much wind, and these fronts keep blowing in. It's just kind of mucking things up everywhere we're fishing. But the fishing overall wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. You just had to work real hard, Rick. Those trout, they still produced, but it was not as easy as it has been. It took us an hour, 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 to 3, just to get our 6 limit, And we caught a lot of small fish, but in that dirty, mucked up water, if you're not making noise with them popping corks, you're not really going to do very well.
Yep. Well, it can't. Every day's not Christmas, Greg Stamper.
I understand.
You don't get to stand on. You don't get to stand on the beach and cast at a 40-inch snook every day, Greg. That's not how it works.
Well, I can tell you this, and I think this will continue for about another week before things clean up a little more and things get a little bit easier. I think we talked about it last week, but catching a couple ladyfish here and there normally is an easy gig. It takes a couple minutes, and we just move on and keep going. But if you do catch them right now, you definitely want to hold on to them, freeze them, use them as much as you can, because in that dirty water all week, the redfish bite was actually very good for us, even in the dirty water. But they weren't really keyed in on those shrimp. They didn't like any of the small pinfish I had. Them cut baits, Rick, oh, we tore them up. We caught some fish that were 30 inches this week.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, that's excellent. Hey, let me ask you a quick question before I let you go. What knives do you use at the cleaning table?
What knives do I use? So, well, it depends on what fish I'm cleaning, Rick. But I have a 7-inch boning. I have a 9-inch fillet.
Manufacturer, please.
Dexter. I use Dexter, and I have a very simple knife sharpener that they make that I replace. I probably buy one every 2 months. It starts to not, sharpen as well. But it's a very simple sharpener. But I use a 7, a 9, and I do have a 12-inch that actually has a serrated edge for when I do those big triple tail and stuff. Because things with rib cages, Rick, I don't know if you know this, but these sheep's head and these triple tails, they'll wear your knife down pretty quick. So
no kidding. I just finished cleaning a big box full of triggers, so you're going to tell me about wearing a blade down? I don't think so.
Yeah, so you understand. I get to that rib cage, and I bust out that big boy that'll cut right through that for me, and I can take the rest of it out later.
I understand. Greg, I appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
No doubt, Rick. Look forward to it. Tight lines.
Thanks, Captain Greg Stamper. Plus, pull up into West Central. You know what that means? Ray Markham is on the call. Ray, how's your fishing?
It's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still pretty much on the cooler days, a sheep's head bite. Guys that are getting out, they're not really getting far out offshore. They're doing some nearshore stuff, but they're having some pretty good success catching hogfish and some mangrove snapper. And if they get out to 70 to 90 foot of water, they're getting some lane snapper and a few red grouper. But that's about it. I mean, the inshore guys, we've had to pick some days because we've had plenty of cold, plenty of wind. And the grayest looking skies, I could have sworn it was going to snow.
Yeah, it has looked like snow, right? Right now, I'm sitting in Jacksonville. I've got a 111-pound Labrador Retriever on my feet and the heater running right next to me. So
nice.
I'm waiting for it to snow just any time now. That's for sure.
Well, I'm telling you. But, talking about sheep's head, there was one thing that I never really liked about sheep's head, and that was cleaning them.
Yeah.
You gotta have one heck of a knife to get through some of that stuff.
Yes,
they got some big bones, and it's tough. And I found something years ago. Now I've had this knife probably for 30 years or so. But I bought a Normark medallion back then, and it was about $100 back then. But dang good knife. And I'm telling you, it holds an edge really well. I use an edge maker. It's a tool that I bought from a guy, and it works super good. But I'm telling you, everything from filleting, small flounder to big trout and snook and redfish and everything else, they're great. So
what's the name of the knife
can't complain. It's called a Normark medallion. I think Normark's part of Rapala guys,
That's correct. They make knives under Normark and under Williamson. Yep.
Okay.
The Normarks now, I don't know about back then, but the Normarks have a gray handle on them, and the Williamsons have a blue and white handle on them. I use them
this
quite
is
a bit.
Awesome. Yeah.
Now,
good stuff.
Is it got a stiff blade, or do you like a more flexible blade?
I preferred a little bit of a stiff blade with a tip that kind of can wiggle through stuff. I can fillet a flounder, and you can read through it when I'm done.
Yep, so. That's how you're supposed to be able to fillet a flounder. And life got easier for us, Ray, when the limit on flounder went up to 14 inches. Because just to me, I would get so angry. Because flounder would wash up on my beach at the house that people had cleaned, and they were so small that they only cleaned the dark side. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I know exactly what you mean. I got guys that never knew there was any meat on the white side. But tell you the truth, there's a big tournament down here that's an annual thing every January, and it's usually the worst days of the world, weather-wise. But I'll tell you, typically there's 200 to 300 anglers. There was not one flounder weighed in this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. All right. Well, Ray, as always, we appreciate it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. We'll do that.
Our thanks to Ray Markham for a great West Central report. Now it's time. I've got the mayor of Homosassa. I've got his office line going, and I believe he's in the office. Are you there, Mr. Mayor?
I am here downtown in, we'll call it Homosassa, which on some occasions can be pretty warm, but on this occasion right now, it's been pretty good winter weather.
Good deal. Good deal. Tell me about your fishing.
All right. This is what you got to do. If you want to be successful on the Big Bend up here, if you want to get out there and cast and burn some jigs and all that, just take that, crumble that piece of paper up and throw it in the garbage.
Okay.
You got to bundle up and slow it down. Now, for the trout bite, we still got a really good bite going here along the Homosassa through Crystal River, and I've seen some reports up towards Cedar Key and up towards Steenahatchee on sea trout. Now, down on the lower end here where I'm at in Homosassa, we still have our trout bite on the outside edges. So I'm talking, around the creek mouths like Mason Creek and St. Martin's River, Little Homosassa River, and then up there toward Mullet Key and the Spoil Banks and Crystal River. And that shallow water is what you want to target. I'm using the D.O.A. 5.5 305 glow jerk bait. That has been working best for me, and it's just, your fish is shallow water, 18 to 25 inches. So you got to kind of work it slow, which is kind of hard to do in shallow water. So you're going to have to find that happy medium. We caught a nice limit of trout today and threw back oversized trout, which is kind of weird to say, but the new regulations are really working. So those bigger females were letting go, but it's twitching that. And I always tell people in my boat, it's a twitch, pause. And usually that pause is when they strike that bait. And I'm using a 3/0 owner hook, bait holder, bait style hook, but I'm using a loop knot on that hook. So you got 2 pivot points, one on the eye, one on the shank. So now you got a really wiggly, jerk bait out there, and that's what's been working. Now that is the inshore bite. Red fishing, if you want to target some reds, fish the rivers and the deeper holes, and you're likely to get redfish, black drum, and maybe a few keeper mangrove snapper. But the big bite here lately has been the sheep's head bite when the weather permits you to get out there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, they'll start spawning there soon, won't they?
Absolutely. They've already been doing it. I had a day here this past week where we had real calm conditions and ran out to about 12 foot. And what I always like to tell people, when you're targeting those sheep's head, if you do some inshore grouper fishing, you probably have some decent numbers, but you want to target that structure that has a high profile. Some things are ledges and there's rubbly piles and things like this, but when I mean high profile, I had this one particular rock in mind, and about 12 foot of water, it comes within 2 foot of the surface. So it's a big rock. It's one, if you got a nice sized boat, you're going to whack it if you ain't careful. Now, those bigger rocks, those sheep's head, they like 50-degree water, and we've got plenty of it right now, and I think that's what triggers them to start to spawn. And they get out there, and it was early in the, I guess, the spawn, because a lot of our fish were very pretty, their fins all intact and everything, and as the season progresses, as we get through winter, it seems that a lot of those sheep's head on those rocks, they'll start getting beat up. You'll see their fins being nipped off. They're all scarred up and bit and chewed on. I mean, I don't know about their love life, but I don't know any part of it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yep.
I hate it when she bites my fin off. I just hate it. I'm swimming. I'm stuck swimming around in circles. It's terrible.
Yeah. So those sheep said, they're getting into their groove out there, and and before I was thinking, back when it was 15 fish a person, that's insane. To keep that many.
plenty, and even at 8. So I limit on my boat. That day I had 4 anglers, and I capped them at 5 apiece, same as our trout rule, and we left them biting. They're very happy, and I was very happy at the end of the trip not to have to clean so many fish, but they were all nice size, about 3 to 5 pound sheepshead, which are great fight. And, great eating size. When you get them down to like barely legal or 13 inches, I mean, you're better off going and catch some brim down there in the pond, So, those little guys like that. But this is the time to get out there. And my favorite bait is live shrimp. And I pinch the tail off and thread them tail first onto a 1/8 ounce jig head. Now, if the current is really running hard, I'll bump it up to a 1/4 ounce. But if you get out there deeper water, because they'll bite all the way out to about the 25-foot range on those high-profile rocks, you may have to go to a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce or even an ounce if the current is running real hard, especially getting around like the full moon, just to get that shrimp down there on the bottom. And a lot of people, they'll say about sheepheads, you got to set the hook before they bite. Now these sheepshead, I think because they are congregated, they get very competitive. And you feel the strike, so it's a good fish to catch this time of year if you want to eat something.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, let me tell you something, William. That old story about you got to hit them before they bite, that's never been true. If you've got the right rod tip and you're fishing braid, you'll feel that bite every time. Don't let it.
Absolutely.
You just got to get your timing down, and you're absolutely fine.
I tell people, sheepsheads bite, they're used to eating, barnacles or fiddler crabs or, any small shellfish. So they bite it and crunch it and they spit it out. And then they suck it back in, bite, crunch, spit it out. And when they do that, they're filtering it. So the heavy part of whatever they're eating, the shell, is sinking away from the flesh. So that's how they filter it. So they just don't get a whole bunch of shell and, at every bite. So they're doing that with your shrimp. So usually about the third time that you feel that kind of transpire through the end of the rod, you'll feel a little bit of weight of the fish.
Yep.
And when you feel that little bit of weight, go ahead and sock it to them and catch them.
You got it. Cap, as always, we appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Next week, I'm going to tell you about now. Here, One Ray Markham is coming up this week, and we're going to go squirrel hunting Wednesday. So we got a little tournament going. Yep, it's going to be squirrel fantastic. The small game season is still here at the Big Bend. So it's going to be a good time. And I don't know. It's either going to be 22s or 410s. We're going to have to see which one we're going.
410s cheating. If you can't hit him with a 22, forget it. No.
Well, no. I got to win. Hey, I'm going to win. I'm using all my tools.
Well, you're going to have to because Markham will cheat. All right. I appreciate it, William. We'll check with you next week.
See you next week, bud.
Thank you, buddy. All right, we've got him on the back end of our trip around the state this week instead of the front end. Golly, I know it's not cold down where he is. What is it down in Nosara, Costa Rica? I'm guessing 79, Craig Sutton. How close am I?
You're about. I think it's 86 today.
Oh, okay.
Skies,
we got a heat wave.
Yep. Yeah, but listen to this, Ricky. We did a grand slam yesterday.
Come on.
A very good client of mine, of ours, Nigel Phillips. This guy's a world-class angler. Went 2 for 5 on the marlin. Had the sailfish to go with it. But then today, I think we released a total of 6 marlins.
Hold on. You're not getting away that cheap. You said you had a grand slam yesterday. You had 2 marlins. What species were they?
A stripe, a blue, and a sailfish.
Yep, that's a grand slam. Congratulations, buddy.
Oh, absolutely, man. We've been getting 2/3 of the way there for the last few weeks, but getting that last species has been tough. But I think, and I haven't gotten the confirmation on it, but I think the Wonder and maybe the Discover did a grand slam today also.
Wow.
But listen to this story. They got 5 lines out on the 23 Adventure. This guy, Nigel Phillips, who did the grand slam yesterday, he booked the Adventure. They get all 5 lines go off with striped marlin.
What?
Yeah, I know. Plus, they got a bunch of critters to go with it. But all 5 lines went off the striped marlin. How cool is that?
Well, break it to me gently. How many out of the 5 did they get?
2.
That's good. That's still good fishing, boy. Man, oh
Yeah.
How
I mean,
about
you
that?
know,
I've never seen one. I've never caught one. I would love to.
Well, a stripe to me is like a sailfish on steroids. He's real acrobatic. You know, he's real active. There's no quit in him, but he fights a lot like a sailfish.
Right.
But, you know, but a little bigger, a little badder. But yeah, the stripes have showed up in force. I mean, we're raising them and catching them pretty regular the last few days. So this marlin trend, I guess, going to continue on.
Now, are most of those fish being caught on ballyhoo, or most of those live baiting?
Well, you know, one of the the fish for the Grand Slam, I was talking to Nigel. They dropped back a live bonita on it, and he dropped it, set the hook, come unplugged. Bonita came out. The blue marlin came after it again, took it again, pulled out, and the marlin hit it a 3rd time. This time they kept him plugged up and released the fish. But
cool.
They, which I've seen that a lot. When those fish get onto a good live bait like that, there's no stopping, no saying no to them. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
It took me a long time to learn the secret of catching blue marlin, and I'm now one of the great ones at it ever since I learned the secret to it.
Tell me, what is it, Ricky?
Drive the boat over the top of a hungry blue marlin.
Yeah,
works
exactly.
every time.
I know it. They're kamikaze stripes.
Oh, they're amazing.
You know,
when they decide they're going to bite, you're not going to stop them from biting.
No, they're just full on in a frenzy mode, and when they feel that hook and they start frenzying up, it's something that you can't get it out of your mind. Or if it doesn't boil your blood, I don't want it.
It's the best. We can't be friends if that doesn't get you going. Thank you, brother. As always, we appreciate it.
Likewise, Ricky.
Craig Sutton from Nosara Paradise Fishing. Hey, that's going to wrap up our trip around the state tonight. Guys, it's been a lot of fun. I tell you, I enjoyed the knife survey quite a bit. Fishermen are really picky about their knives. If I were looking for good cleaning knives, based on what we learned tonight, I would look at Forstner's, I would look at Williamson, and I would, of course, look at the standard Dexter Russell. Now, Dexter Russell comes in an inexpensive knife made from China and a moderately priced knife that I believe is called the Santa Safe that says Made in USA on it. I will tell you from experience to stick with the one that's made in the USA. But keep them sharp. Learn how to use a stone, or else find a sharpener that you're comfortable with. And I can tell you that your fish cleaning gets a whole lot easier when you've got the right knife. I want to thank all of our action spotters tonight, but I especially want to thank you for listening and tuning in. If you have any questions about our action spotter, if you want to reach out to any of them, if you want a personal note on which spinning rod you need to use, just reach out and let me know. Rick at floridasportsman.com. Okay, that's Rick at floridasportsman.com. Or, of course, I'm on Facebook, Rick Riles. You can find me there, and you bring me a question, we will pose it to our podcasters. This week's Florida Sportsman Magazine has been brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum. Oh, it's the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals. Wow, your dream marlin destination. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flats, bay, and offshore hybrids, you need to learn about Young Boats. Until next week, for Florida Sportsman Magazine, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and we will see you on the river.